I'm pleased to introduce our host for today, Mr. SVenkat. Venkat, as he's very popularly known to all of us, who co-founded Practus Advisors. Venkat is a chartered accountant, cost and management accountant, and a risk manager. He started his career with PwC, where he spent about 8 years. And then at a young age of 28, he was appointed as the CFO at Aeon's Indian subsidiary. What is interesting is that Venkat has experience across industry, practice, as well as an entrepreneur. And I'm sure that having him on the panel today is going to be really enlightening for all of us. Venkat actively mentors a lot of young professionals. I think a lot of practitioners will vouch for that, giving us career tips and guidance whenever that's needed.
Choices on entrepreneurship, right? So let me kind of give you a quick 2-minute input on that. See, honestly, about 10 years back, 15 years back, for a lot of us who came from normal middle class upbringing, getting into business was an absolute no-no, right? We were always told that, look, study hard, get into a good job, right? And make sure you got stability in your life, right? And today, I think that has completely changed, right? I mean, the number of entrepreneurs in their early 20s or even mid 20s that we meet is just phenomenal. And a lot of them are doing very, very well for themselves. These career choices are not necessarily finance centric, right? I mean, we have seen doyens like possibly Ramdev Agarwal of Motilal Oswal, or maybe a Samir Koticha of ASK Wealth, who created enormous organizations like maybe Nirmal Jain of IIFL, etc. But if you look at people who have also started businesses in non-financial areas, right? So you've got people like, say, Radhesham Agarwal of Imami, absolutely nothing to do with the finance world, or Rakesh Mago of Make My Trip, or Dhruv Stringi of Yatra Online, Niranjan Hiranandani, real estate, Pranay Roy, NDTV. I mean, these are all finance professionals who went on to kind of start businesses that have got nothing to do with finance, right? So I don't think the choices are necessarily finance centric. Obviously, they're completely neutral to whether you're a man or a woman. It doesn't matter whether you want to start a global business or a local business. So I think it's a very exciting world out there because of disruption that's happened because of technology. I personally feel that the entrepreneurial space has now got leveled out. In other words, 20 years back, if you were to start a business, for you to dislodge an incumbent would have taken enormous amount of effort, right? But today, that gap between somebody who's already in that line of business ahead of you and you can be bridged. Yeah, because probably you're going to be more nimbler. Probably you learn how to leverage technology better. Maybe you've got a better pulse of the market. Multiple reasons that can contribute to your strategic mode, right? So it's become far easier to start a business today. Second, there is a greater acceptability of new talent in the market, right? I mean, earlier, unless you were a 20-year, 30-year, 40-year-old company, consumers are not willing to trust you. But today you look at the number of brands that are proliferated, which have got a provenance of maybe 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. There's a lot of brand acceptability. And third, of course, is the infusion of capital. I mean, today, the amount of money that has been raised by private equity and venture capital funds is not funny, right? And the number of investable ideas that they have is limited, right? So today there is a demand supply problem where in my view, there is an excess of supply of capital, and there are very few investable ideas that this money is chasing. So if you have got an idea and you've built some traction around it, I think probably today is the best time for you to try and raise funding. Unlike in the past, what is also very good is there is a lot of platforms that provide for angel funding. Earlier, you needed to have a friend or a family who had deep pockets, an HNI that you knew personally for somebody to kind of seed invest in your business. But that is no longer the case. You look at, say, platforms like an Indian Angel Networks or Let's Venture or an Inflection Point Ventures. These are very professionally run platforms where they can help you raise anywhere between, say, 50 lakh, 1 crore to probably about $500,000, about 3-4 crores you will be able to raise from this. Of course, there are the larger Series A VC firms as well that you could raise money from. Yeah. So I think for those of you who are saying that, look, I don't want to necessarily get into a quote unquote a job, and you want to be in the business of creating jobs, I think it's a very, very big and a very dynamic and a very exciting world out there. Yeah, look for your niche. Like when we started Practus, we were very clear that we didn't want to add an accounting firm because we knew there were already too many people, including the Big Four, who were trying to do it. So we said, can we outsource CFO services? We saw that as a gap in the market. We started it, right? Everybody has got to find a niche, which is an unsolved problem. I mean, today when we use Uber and Ola, we don't even think, right? About 12 years back when I was in Singapore, there was a Uber equivalent over there and was wondering, why we can't have this in India. It was an idea, but somebody worked on it, right? And they created $1 billion enterprise, right? In Ola, they were able to create that enterprise. So all concepts, I don't think you need to be a rock star or a CA or MBA finance to identify the market. If you keep your ears and eyes open in our daily life, as you're walking on the road, you will find that there are unsolved problems, right? If you're mentally we are open to it, you will be able to find your niche to try and solve qualifications that, let's say, a Big Four or a large professional services firm would be looking at, right? And you did kind of very briefly alluded to CFA. But beyond the CFA, CMA, CA, maybe MBA finance, I mean, are there any other courses or qualifications that you see your HR teams looking for while onboarding candidates into Deloitte? I think the only comment I'd like to make, right, to participants is the best investment you can make is in yourself, right? And in today's world, there's a total explosion, okay, of courses that are available. And I also think that we should not make the mistake of confusing degrees with learning. These can be two completely independent things, right? If you want to learn, and I think there are some great role models, I would strongly recommend that you look at the LinkedIn profile of Mr. Sambasivan, who is a CFO of Tata Sky. I mean, I think he's a gold medalist, chartered accountant, company secretary, cost accountant, and so many other degrees. Every week, he's posting on LinkedIn saying that I've completed this course. And none of these courses have got anything to do with finance. They are all technology courses. And when I asked him, I mean, he was a keynote speaker at our annual get together, and we asked him, Samba, why are you doing this? And he's like probably 50, 55 years of age, nothing left to prove. But he says, look, we are a learning organization. And if I need my team to learn, unless I constantly reinvent myself, how will my team unskill and reskill themselves, right? So, I mean, with somebody with that degree of experience in seniority, if they feel the need to reinvent themselves, I think people like us have to definitely follow suit, right? I mean, we subscribe to LinkedIn Learning at Practus. That's our official learning platform. I mean, there is no dearth of courses. Okay, the problem is, we keep saying, I need time for, I need to get trained, etc. But really, the bottleneck is on time and on interest and the willingness, right? If the conviction is there that you want to reinvent yourself and learn new skills, I think today there is no dearth of courses, right? LinkedIn is only one of the options. I mean, you look at any of these Unacademy and other platforms, there will be adequate courses available. There are several related questions to this. See, just one point that I wanted to amplify that both I think Shrenik and Ranjit made in different ways. See a practical example, okay, to see how you can introduce technology. So we were working with a hospital chain, and the problem statement was that a lot of money is stuck in insurance claim reconciliations, okay, with insurance companies. Very typical problem, right, when you're working in a hospital. And it was taking 6 people full time, okay, in the month to try and reconcile with 15 insurance companies. The person that we put on the job, he said, look, why don't we use RPA to solve the problem? This guy went out. He found out a UiPath developer. He figured out, he sat down with the developer. He figured out how to implement the solution. He was able to deliver a 6 crore payback in cash flow terms to this client, right? Now, nobody told this individual that use RPA. He took a functional problem, which was a pain point for a client. He decided how to introduce a technology. Now, today, RPA is one of our best sellers in our firm, right? This was not an organization-led initiative to tell somebody ki please learn RPA, right? A lot of this actually stems from our own internal desire to evolve as finance professionals. Today, I don't think you can look at finance and technology as two separate things. I don't think that exists. I think if you have to be a good quality finance professional, it is assumed that you will have some degree of technology backup or knowledge that is already embedded. Okay, and I think Shrenik used a very nice word. I mean, not having it could almost make you illiterate in today's world. I mean, not to scare you, but we are only saying that look, if we have to stay relevant and ahead of the game, then I think this has become pretty much par for the course, right? So at this point, we'll quickly take our first poll. Murtaza, you want to put up the question? So, what is the number one reason why you are looking to change your career? Yeah, so this is to all the participants. Is it that your current role does not allow you to reach your full potential? Are you worried that you will become redundant because you're in a slow growth role? Are you unhappy with the learning opportunities? You feel that you're done with corporate life and you want to explore something on your own? Or is it remuneration? Or maybe the last option is the best option. Maybe you're just happy with your current role. So I think broadly it looks like 1/4 of the participants are happy in their current role, which is a good sign. 75% are unhappy, and the biggest chunk there seems to be that people feel they're not able to reach their full potential and they're not happy with the learning opportunities. So very interesting. I mean, remuneration is zero. So looks like everybody is in well-paying jobs. Very, very happy to know that. Excellent. Good. Thanks for that, Murtaza. Quickly switching on to some questions.
Actually, can I address that current role does not allow to reach my full potential? I'm going to question those people, right? That's what I always like. I think you and I were talking is you've got to define what your full potential is. If you say you're not learning anything new, that is when you start thinking of the next role. And the next role doesn't have to be the next company. It could be the next function within that same company, right? But how do you know what is your full potential? The way I would approach it, since if you're earlier in your career, is learn what it is there in that thing. Don't think about, I want to be CFO. What are the things I got to check mark? You might find your passion, and I would say just follow your passion. You have to wake up excited like that. I spent 16 years at Amazon, and I spent only a year and a half in retail. And the only reason I did that retail, because back then they said, okay, to get to director, you haven't yet worked in the mothership, so to speak, which is retail. And I said, fine, I think I'm going to find it boring. They said, no, we'll give you for launching a new product. But I stayed only a year in retail because that was something I was waking up. I was not happy. That's when I realized, you know what, I've got to go change. So I would say, don't be so focused on, I have to get to that next role. I would say get the most out of this current role and then, do it. Take your time. It's not a race. Some people get to the top early, some take time, but as long as you're enjoying along the way, then it's worth it.
I have one thing to add here. See, when you're saying that you are not reaching your full potential or learning, the question is, what is that learning which we are looking at, or what is the potential you are looking at? Even when you're doing, you are performing in a particular particular organization, a particular role. There are two types of roles, particularly when we talk from the perspective of, let's say, Practus. When you start your career, you start as a doer. You in the organization, and within that organization, you go to the next level as a leader, as a manager, and then further up, you become, you keep growing within the organization. So it is, are you ready to come out of your comfort zone as a doer becomes very, very important, because you enjoy, and you are, and as more you do that activity, you are much more comfortable, keep repeating those activities. And as soon as, there is a change in role to, let's say, lead a team or, get more business, that really, you don't challenge yourself and say, no, this is not my cup of tea. So if you keep yourself challenging and you show your potential, there is no organization who can stop not utilizing your potential, because everybody is looking for what is the right skill set which you have, which needs to be enhanced, because that is for the benefit of that organization. So are you ready to come out of your comfort zone, identify what is your strength and work, on those strengths itself? I'm not even saying, you work on a weakness, just, add on to your strength, and people will be willing to use your strength for your own benefit and organization's benefit.
There's one question from Anand Jha. He's got 8 years of experience in finance and accounts. He has just completed SAP FICO S4HANA course and looking for a job in SAP, but the problem is I'm fresh in SAP. Can I join as end user? Yeah, answer is absolutely yes. I think we see so many companies that are now migrating to S4HANA. It's good that you've invested time in doing this course. I think an end user is a good way to start because you're being hired primarily for your functional experience in finance. But for a company that is trying to do the migration, I think you would definitely be an asset. Once you've been part of that migration team, implementation team, obviously the opportunities will start to open up as you go along. There's one question from Sharvi Batra. How important is being an MBA to get to CFO? Also, to start on a CFO route, which industry should be our pick? See, honestly, I think it's got nothing to do with the qualification, is my view, and obviously, I would love Ranjit's view on this as well. Like D. Sundaram, who used to be finance director at Hindustan Unilever, was a cost accountant. Manoj Bhatt, who is currently group CFO at Mahindra, is an IITian. Right. And I mean, in India, people still have a misconception, and it's probably true because 90% of the CFOs are either chartered accountants or MBA finances. But you go to the US, you will find so many guys who come from a non-technical qualification, non-financial qualification, who are CFOs. I think what is critical, and Ranjit did mention about this, is really the business partnering mindset, right? Which has nothing to do with your qualification. It's got to do with the way in which you are molded, how you want to think about your role, right? So the more and more you do business partnering and help your business SBU heads to kind of succeed, kind of puts you on a fast track to becoming the CFO. On the industry, honestly, see, every single industry needs a CFO. I can't think of any industry where this is not going to be required. So I don't think that this is really to start your CFO, you could be starting with any industry. And as I mentioned, I don't think the career fungibility is an issue at this point for finance professionals. Right. So, question from Mahindran M. At what point of time in number of years should you start thinking about becoming a CFO? Because we can cover various experience till 40 or 45 also. What is the mandatory experience to focus for CFO? Is it sufficient in controlling and business finance? Yeah, I think we probably answered this in a different way. To me, Mahindran, I don't think it's really even correct to say that you can be a CFO only when you're 40 or 45. I know a lot of people in their late 20s who are CFOs today, right? So I don't think it's a function of age. I think it's a function of the mindset and what impact you generate. To me, the most important thing is if you are really serious about becoming a CFO, you got to figure out how the business makes money, right? And you've got to be there at the coalface, right? You've got to go into if it's a manufacturing or a distribution company, you've got to go there into the plant. You've got to go and meet distributors, got to meet retailers. You got to understand what is the consumer psyche, right? Because that's what really determines how the company sells. The second part you got to figure out is how are you going to add value in that journey? How can you help the company to improve the EBITDA, optimize the revenue, improve the cash flow, right? If you're working on those areas rather than getting slotted into controllership, business finance, etc., if you're focused on that value generation, impact generation, then I think this progression becomes a little bit easier.